Hello, how you guys doing? What's going on? Welcome to the Messy Sweet Spot. I am your host, and we have more updates on Diddy. Not just Diddy, but his sons. Let me tell you, when you have a virus like Diddy, he infects everybody that's around him, including his kids, including his sons. His sons have got the virus too. They are on demon time. And we heard it. They put this all in the music. Remember, they on demon time. They were not playing around. They are really on demon time. They're telling me that now this story was out 7 months ago, but what makes it new is they filed the official paperwork. He got served. Diddy's son, Christian Combs, have been served for doing notorious things to women on those yacht parties. Yes, it was girls there working, just wanted to get a good, honest paycheck, but they were targeted by Diddy and his sons. Yes, these individuals, they are predators. Yes, and you know how a predator is. Once they got their eyes on you, honey, they love to chase. They don't care if you cry, they scream, they love all that. And they do horrible things. And this is what Diddy teaches his son. He got that evil spirit on him. And what do you think? When you around evil people and that spirit get on you, you become that way too. You don't even realize it. That's why you got to keep on guard. You got to keep prayed up, and you got to separate yourself from evildoers. Okay? Honey, I tell you, it all goes down here. I have a video you know we got to react to, because you guys know I love to react, okay? And I just want to say thank y'all for the real supporters. I got 3 shout outs, okay? For y'all hitting my Cash App and making it clap. Hold on, let me read it here, because I didn't want to forget nobody that's really supporting me, because that goes a long way. All right, so shout out to, hold on, Cynthia, how you doing, baby? Okay, shout out, thank you for the Cash App and making it clap. She said, I love my stories. We missed you, girl. I miss y'all too. I miss y'all too. Okay, we got another. Elizabeth, I love that name. I love Elizabeth. I love that name. Oh my goodness, Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a royal name. I love that name. All right, she donated. Thank you, baby. She says for the commentary and the wig adjustment. Yes, and let me tell y'all, honey, if this wig come up, just pretend like you don't see it. Just like you pretend all the other BS in your neighborhood, you pretend you don't see. Okay? Y'all some good pretenders. Okay? So just pretend you don't see it if it lifts. Linda, thank you, Linda, so much for the Cash App. All right, I appreciate you. She says, I love you. Keep it real. Honey, that's all I know. That's all I know, how to keep it real. That's all I know. All right, so let's get into this commentary, this reaction. You guys know I'm going to stop and go. I'm doing something new. All right, so I love you guys. Thank you so much. Keep the likes up. Keep the subscriptions up. All right, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. So let's hear. They are going to tell us everything that's going on with Diddy, him getting served, and what he got served for. They're going to break it down, and I'm going to stop and react. Let's listen.
Sean Diddy Combs isn't the only one in the family facing some serious accusations, and while the rapper has been criminally charged and arrested, his sons have been named in recent lawsuits. But could those allegations lead to more charges for the Combs family? We're taking a closer look with criminal defense attorney Natalie Whittingham Burrell. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, it's not really surprising that a lot of people have been speaking out since the arrest and indictment of Sean Diddy Combs on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. But now that includes the woman behind a lawsuit against his son, Christian Combs. So Sean Combs was indicted in federal court last week. He's going to be going up against the formidable prosecutors of the Southern District of New York. And until then, He's locked up at what's called the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. And this is a jail which has housed other celebrity inmates at times. It's been plagued with issues like unsanitary conditions, fights between inmates. There's a status conference for his case scheduled for October 10th. But as Combs now faces these criminal charges, there is a separate legal team that is dealing with the multiple civil lawsuits that are pending against him. And one of those complaints was filed by a woman named Grace O'Markey. So O'Markey was apparently a steward working aboard a yacht that was rented by Sean Combs in December of 2022 for a holiday celebration with his family, when she claims she was sexually assaulted by Christian Combs. And within weeks of Sean Combs' homes being raided back in March by federal agents, O'Markey...
It's sad. It is sickening, okay? Keep your daughters and sons away from these demon spirits out here, okay? This man could hire any whore, and it's a lot of whores. It's too many to count, okay? He could hire any of these whores, but no, he wants the innocent. He wants, the ones that are blessed and anointed, the ones that he knows he can't get. These are what these predators do. They don't want easy access. They want a challenge. They want to be able to take advantage and to dominate and dictate your body. Okay, honey? That is what evildoers do, and that's what they are. And he have gotten this wickedness, this spirit from his father. Make no mistake about it. All right, so let's go on. And let's make sure you guys get the likes up, okay? Share, and I want to know, what are your thoughts about this?
Filed a civil complaint against Christian and named his father, Sean Combs, in the suit as well for allegedly facilitating this assault to occur. Now, through her attorney, O'Markey put out a statement after Sean Combs was arrested saying, quote, "The long-awaited federal arrest of Sean Combs is the first step for our clients receiving justice. We leave the criminal aspect of this case in the hands of the people and justice system. As for the civil cases, we await our time for the facts to reveal themselves and seek the justice our clients deserve." It goes on to say, "We also anticipate more victims coming forward. We knew this was coming. The evidence is very clear, and it was only a matter of time. This is an important step towards justice for all of Mr. Combs' victims, including my clients. Justice will prevail." Hey, by the way, we really appreciate you guys coming to us for our Sean Combs coverage. We plan to continue to bring you updates on this story. And look, the reason we're able to do this is because not only of the support that we get from you guys, but also from our sponsors. And if I can, I want to call out one right now, Upside. So this is so cool. Upside is a free app that helps you get cash back on daily essentials
in the courtroom.
Code sidebar, and you'll get as criminal charges. How much does a result in a civil case affect a criminal case?
Not at all. So it doesn't affect the criminal case. The jury in a criminal case is supposed to remain fair and unbiased and only consider the facts that they're hearing in the courtroom. As far as the judge is concerned, if the judge is going to be imposing a sentence because the jury found the person guilty, the judge should be considering what happened in the courtroom. And usually they don't take into consideration civil liability. I've heard many judges say, I know that there's a concurrent case in the civil courts. We're going to let that play out. This is separate and apart from that. And the reason being is that it's a different burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt versus preponderance of the evidence. And so for that reason, you can't really let what happens in the civil context infiltrate the criminal context, because the trier of fact is determining something different.
Before I make these connections, because there could be overlap here, there is the possibility that, and I'll get to this in a second, whether or not Grace O'Markey may be cooperating with federal investigators, whether any piece of that evidence could come into the federal case. We'll get to that in a second. But what did you make of the statement from Grace O'Markey's legal team after Sean Combs was arrested?
I see. So what they're saying basically is that this is opening up a, it's kind of opening up for more victims to come forward. And I think that's really what it's all about as far as the civil case is concerned. So more people might feel emboldened, like, look, there is a criminal case here. This means that what happened to me is valid and I am free to speak out about it, right? They'd always been waiting for it. I guess, you know, if the feds had investigated and nothing had come of it, people might have felt less inclined to come forward. So as far as emboldening potential victims, yes, the criminal case would impact the psyche of a person who's potentially a victim of Sean Combs. Yes.
Let me ask you this. The statement where they're saying, this isn't a surprise. We expected this to happen. Now, that could be because we were all seeing what was happening play out. We knew that there were raids. There was reports about a grand jury being impaneled. There was reports that Sean Combs was the target of investigation. Do you think that we're not surprised because we saw everything everybody else said? Or do you think we're not surprised because Grace O'Markey may be cooperating with the government as a witness in the federal criminal case?
Right, I see what you mean. It could be that. There's really no way to know whether or not she's cooperating. Because like with Cassie, you saw the details that Cassie alleged in her lawsuit being played out in the actual formal indictment and the letters that were written by the state to try and encourage the court to hold on to Sean Combs and not release him. Whereas I don't see a lot of specific detail overlap with what O'Markey is alleging, other than the fact that what she alleges confirms and supports what Cassie has been saying. It's interesting. I think what she says, O'Markey, more confirms and report what's in the Lil Rod lawsuit, which is these things that were happening on yachts, which isn't really detailed in the criminal case.
And I'm going to get to that connection in a minute. I guess just more generally speaking, and this is interesting because the way the prosecutors filed these charges against Sean Combs, there's not a lot of independent sexual assault claims, right? They've really focused it more on these freak-offs, these sexual performances, and the idea that the allegations are that he centered these sexual performances that were directed by Combs, that he would force people to be a part of them, he would transport people to be a part of them, he would drug people to engage in these freak-offs. And do you think that's strategic, that prosecutors are not saying, we know that he's facing a number of sexual assault lawsuits, or his son might be facing a sexual lawsuit. We're not going to include that as kind of separate charges, or even evidence of the freak-offs, because what she's alleging, and we'll get to what she's alleging, she's not alleging a freak-off happened with her, right? And I'm thinking that federal prosecutors are very specific for a reason here, right?
Right, they're very specific for a reason because, first of all, you made a very good distinction. What Ms. O'Markey is alleging is against Christian Combs, Sean Combs' son, Diddy's son, not against Diddy himself, as far as the actual essay is concerned. However, what it does do is kind of lay a foundation for the context in which they're saying these freak-offs happen. And so I think by leaving their indictment more general, they have left it open for more evidence to be introduced at trial, because they could easily say, well, this is relevant to the environment in which these freak-offs took place. This is why people would be afraid to come forward if they're facing the threat of, financial ruin, sexual assault, or being shunned in the entertainment community. And so for all of those reasons, even though this isn't specifically named in the criminal case, these actions by O'Markey, which makes complete sense because Christian Combs is not a defendant in the criminal case, it certainly does add to context. And so now I could see now on the defense side them wanting to do something akin to a bill of particulars, where they want to get more information from how actually the prosecution intends to prove this case, because they've left it so open that pretty much any of those bad acts could.
And so you're kind of laying the groundwork for how possibly Grace O'Markey could testify in a federal case, but there's a lot of things that need to happen before that. So I want to talk a little bit more about this. So we have Christian King Combs, 26-year-old model rapper, third oldest son of Sean Combs, who's one of 3 children that Combs shares with the late model Kim Porter. She died in 2018. And we go back to the raids that happened in Los Angeles and Miami back in March. Combs' sons, specifically in LA, Christian and Justin, they were handcuffed and they were led out of the home as investigators from Homeland Security went in to collect the evidence. 30-year-old Justin is Combs' oldest biological son, who he had with a fashion designer named Misa Hilton. And Justin's mother shared a video from the Los Angeles raid on her Instagram page, and the footage, which appears to come from security cameras around the home, has been edited and sped up in places. And she writes, quote, "The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would not have been handled with the same aggression. Christian, by the way, celebrated his birthday 1 week after the raids, posting photos of his lavish celebrations on his Instagram story. And he also posted this to his story: stop with the blue cap emoji. Cap is slang for lying. And then on April 4th, Grace O'Markey filed her civil lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court. So that timeline I find is really interesting, Natalie. You have the raids. There have been lawsuits that have already discussed either one or two of these sons, but then her lawsuit comes after the raids, after everyone saw them in handcuffs. So what do you make of the remarks of Misa Hilton? What do you make of the fact of what Sean Combs' son posted on Instagram, and also the timing of the Grace O'Markey lawsuit?
Yeah, so first of all, about Misa Hilton's statement, all I have to say is cry me a river, to say that this has anything to do with race when Bernie Madoff's entire family was decimated by his, grift and Ponzi scheme that he was running on the New York elite. His sons were raided as well in public, and they were grown men, just like how Misa Hilton's son is a grown man, and all of Diddy's sons are adult men, 26 and up into their 30s. And so, unfortunately, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But when law enforcement is doing a raid on allegations of sex trafficking, gun ownership, and moving drugs across state lines, they're going to come in with force, given the nature of the case. And I'll say one last thing on Misa Hilton. She didn't have anything to say for the alleged victims of Sean Combs' crimes, in particular Cassie, where he is on video severely beating her. So the video there's never been a statement or outcry by Misa Hilton or any of Sean Combs' paramours that have said that they feel any sympathy for Cassie or what she went through. So again, cry me a river. As far as Justin or whichever son having his birthday party immediately after the raid, I think it exemplifies the type of bubble that these people live in that allowed for these crimes allegedly to go on for so long without being checked by the powers that be. Because who else could be raided by the federal government and the very next week be having a lavish birthday party, right? That comes from a certain level of financial privilege that they have that places them outside of the paradigm of what everyday people like my clients have to deal with. As to your third question about the timing of the lawsuit, I think it goes right along with what you asked me about at the top, which was her attorney's statement. These types of things where you see that the government is intervening, it's almost like before that, a lot of victims of crimes are under a type of gaslighting by the public, by society, by their own family members, that they shouldn't try to hurt this successful man who's done so much for his community. Because remember, he's also a philanthropist. He's also a mogul. He's also a leader that people really looked up to. And I'm sure that many people were discouraged from speaking out against him. And now that he has been federally indicted, some of that armor is gone, and people probably feel more comfortable with coming forward.
So let's get into this civil lawsuit. We did a sidebar on this in the past, but I kind of want to reiterate. So O'Markey says that she had worked as a steward on the yacht that Sean Combs had rented. She was in charge of providing food and drinks for a 12-hour period. She was 25 years old at the time, and she believes and claimed that the alcohol on that yacht had been laced with drugs, because she says women would have one drink, then almost immediately pass out or start falling over. And again, if you go back to the indictment, there were allegations that Combs had been drugging people during the course of these freak-offs. But O'Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but then would come onto the yachts on the evenings to party. And on December 28th, 2022, Christian, according to her, reportedly arrives very intoxicated and pressured O'Markey to take shots of tequila. So she does, and Christian allegedly tries to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift recording studio. And she claims that Christian kissed her neck and face as he groped her legs, breasts, and private areas. Now, O'Markey reportedly told Christian, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." O'Markey then says that she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor. So her complaint says that she knew all of them would be asleep by this time, and this was just kind of a ruse to get out of the situation. Well, she claims, what did Christian do? He said, okay, who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now. Markey then says that she responded with, well, you can take your hand off my ass for the first thing. Now, Markey says that she tried to go back to work, but Christian found her again, wanted her to find him a place to sleep for the night. So she took him to the cinema room of the Yacht, and that's when she claims Christian kept her from leaving, groped her, took off all of his clothes, and tried to force her to perform oral sex on him. And she says that she was unable to find him off until someone came in. Now, the lawsuit goes on to say that Markey told the yacht captain what had happened the next day, and not only did he not believe her, that he didn't do any sort of investigation. She says that the captain even retaliated against her for months after the alleged assault before firing her in May of 2023. The civil complaint also includes photos of apparent bruises on Markey's arms, which she says were caused by Christian Combs. And in this civil suit, she accuses him of assault, battery, sexual assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, Natalie, before I get into the allegations surrounding Sean Combs, because he is a named defendant too, what do you make of those allegations?
Well, I think it's a very serious allegation, and one that's interesting for the corroboration that it could or could not have. Her employer would be liable for not protecting her after she makes an outcry that she's been assaulted on their yacht. And so I'm not sure if they would be willing to come forward and corroborate what she said. But I do understand that the evidence also includes a recording from the recording studio of her resisting Mr. Combs. And so I think what this lays out is something that many people, or women in particular, are familiar with, which is sexual harassment in the workplace, especially in these industries that have softer HR, such as entertainment, travel, management, hotel, hospitality, those types of employments where you come into contact with wealthy individuals who feel like they can do basically whatever they want because they paid for it. And so nothing that she's saying sounds outside the realm of possibility. It's just a matter of corroboration. And if what she says is proven to be true, that is physical assault, sexual assault, harassment, everything of that nature. And so we'll see what the evidence shows when they do the discovery process.
Do you think this puts Christian in the crosshairs of federal prosecutors in any way?
That's interesting because it depends on if there's more than one person. The reason that the feds are involved with Sean P. Diddy Combs is because these things cross state lines and international lines. So, for example, if it was just I'm in Detroit and I have a girl come over from across the street and I sexually assault her, that would be within the state jurisdiction. But if I have a girl pay her to come from Oklahoma to Detroit, for example, and sexually assault her or pay her to do that, that's trafficking across state lines. And now I'm bringing in drugs and guns and things like that. That's what makes it federal. So I'm not sure if it would qualify for federal review, especially because this was out on the water. We've got maritime laws and things like that. I'm not sure if this would be a federal case, but if more people come forward about Christian Combs and it becomes a pattern and it crosses state lines, then possibly there could be some type of federal intrusion into his case.
Now, in terms of Sean Combs, father here, he, in this lawsuit, in a way is accused of aiding and abetting Christian's behavior because as having premises liability, that he was the leaseholder of the yacht, meaning that he had a duty to keep people on that property safe from injuries. And she's seeking unspecified damages in this lawsuit. So Natalie, could that aspect of this case factor into Sean Combs' criminal case in any way? I know I'm being repetitive, but I do think it's kind of an interesting aspect when we talk about what his liability would be here in this civil suit and whether or not it could factor in any way in the federal suit, the federal criminal case.
Right. So more than likely, because this is a bit removed from the allegations of the freak-offs, right? This is not involving sexual activity by Sean Combs, but by Christian Combs. That, like I said before, there would be a motion by the defense to exclude any reference to this as being irrelevant, and they would likely be successful to that in that. But as far as his actual personal liability for premises liability, and also, I guess, because he would be responsible for Christian Combs, unless Christian is in his employ, I don't think him being his son necessarily makes Sean Combs liable. Now, if it's one thing like Sean provided the drugs and Sean P. Diddy Combs created the environment and encouraged him to do this, I don't potentially, but where you really see the liability would be with her actual employer, the owner of the yacht and the company who staffed her on the yacht, not actually investigating and protecting her and allowing illicit drugs to be used on their yacht. They would likely be more liable than Sean Combs is as the actual owner of the property. And because it would be different if she was just some random person.
Right.
She worked for the boat. She worked for the people that own the yacht. And so I think that's really where the liability is, not so much with Sean Combs. I could be wrong, but I don't see the liability there for him as much as I do for Christian and the yacht owner. Now, again, if Sean is in his father's employ and the father creates the environment, with his companies going place to place doing things, but this was in a personal venture, then I don't see the liability as much.
I mean, we kind of did another sidebar on this, but like, if you look at the criminal case where there's racketeering or criminal enterprise, and there was a lot of people involved in this and facilitating these freak-offs, you don't know if one of those people could potentially be Christian Combs that they're talking about, even though, again, the idea of the freak-off isn't mentioned in this lawsuit. It does make you wonder who else could be in the crosshairs, who else is connected to this, what is that connection? We checked with the court to get the latest on this lawsuit and how it's progressing, and a case management conference, when the attorneys and the judge get together to give each other kind of updates on the case and schedule future hearings. It was originally scheduled for August 5th. It was pushed back to December 10th, so we'll continue to follow that. One final thing I want to end on this, and this is something that you mentioned before, is that Little Rod Jones. So I did another sidebar on who may be cooperating with the government right now in the federal case against Sean Combs. And he, I believe, was the first person to bring up this idea of the racketeering enterprise. And, I don't know if he's cooperating with the government. I don't know if he's a star witness. I don't know if they're basing some of their charges on his claims. But what I can tell you is that O'Markey's allegations could very well be bolstered by Little Rod. Because he claims that he was in the recording studio on the boat when Christian Combs and O'Markey came in and reportedly saw the interaction between the two of them, and says that he saw when she was touched inappropriately. Now, you and I spoke previously about this, and when you think about O'Markey's claims and when you think about Little Rodney Jones, you are a little bit skeptical of that lawsuit, the Little Rod Jones lawsuit, correct?
There's just some credibility issues there, right? Because again, like I say, with every case, we'll see what happens when it goes to court and what the discovery process actually bears out. But with Little Rod, first of all, the style of the lawsuit just threw me off with the little pictures of people, as though this was some type of storybook instead of a very serious lawsuit with very serious allegations. In addition, what Little Rod was alleging was that he, as a grown man, was being groomed into homosexuality, which I think is a ridiculous basis for a lawsuit. Now, if someone is physically touching you against your will, you have every single right to sue for sexual assault, harassment, assault, whatever you want to sue for. But to say that someone is trying to make you gay, it just sounded absolutely ridiculous to me. In addition, he was alleging that Diddy was participating in sex trafficking with underage girls because Little Rod himself would go out and get girls from clubs and casinos and things like that and bring them back to the mansion, the yacht, wherever it is that they were with Sean P. Diddy Combs, and that Diddy was not checking the IDs of these girls, but he was the one who got the girls, according to Little Rod. So any lawsuit in which my client is admitting to potentially participating in sex trafficking of underage girls, I'm already skeptical right there, the quality of the evidence of that lawsuit. And then there was just an outright factual misstatement, which was that Diddy had shown Lil Rod a pornographic video of the rapper named T.I., and that was absolutely debunked afterwards. So there were some outright falsehoods in the lawsuit, which they later on tried to, with the amended, try to make it seem like it was a mistake, but that was too much of a misrepresentation for me to take full credibility. However, would I believe that someone who wrote up a lawsuit because they wanted to cash in on what was going on, who actually participated in the bad behavior per their own admission, actually did see bad behavior, did see people committing torts and crimes on a yacht, I absolutely would believe that. So his lawsuit doesn't actually make me disbelieve O'Markey, I think you said her name was. It doesn't make me disbelieve. Okay, it doesn't make me disbelieve O'Markey. It's just that internal to the Little Rod lawsuit, there are actual misstatements of fact in there that make me not believe him as much as I would believe her.
And that's fair. That's fair. I mean, he's made a number of allegations. In fact, in terms of Justin Combs, he says that Justin was involved in soliciting the sex workers for his father's parties, including underage girls, and says that he would participate in the so-called freak-offs. And I'll tell you, I did think it was interesting, just to put a bow on this, because we're running out of time, is I thought it was very interesting that in this criminal indictment, there were no allegations of minors or underage girls. And even though that seemed to be a very pertinent theme in Little Rodney Jones' lawsuit, we didn't see that there. Might come down the bucket, might see in a superseding indictment. Maybe they didn't believe his claims. Maybe there's not enough evidence to substantiate that. Maybe they want to focus on this aspect of the case. We'll see. But look, I thought it's really interesting. And if Grace O'Markey decides is actually a part of this criminal case in any way as a witness, she's going to be questioned about this lawsuit and cross-examined about it, and say that she has a motive to see Sean Combs ultimately indicted. But again, I could talk about this for a long time. Natalie, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Honey, I tell you, it is a lot going on. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about this? Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here at The Messy Sweet Spot. And I'll see you guys on another video. Bye.